Hello there. I didn't notice you there. Welcome to my humble abode. You join me tonight as we sit right next to the fireplace, under the starry skies, with a Christmas tree right behind us, as we talk about a story of a striker and a bard. Now sit on tight. I'm going to pull out my good old storybook as we go through this wonderful, wonderful story in Arkesia. So, once upon a time, there was a striker and a bard. They were good friends, and they wanted to do their weekly raid together. So they gathered together, formed a party, and went to challenge the Ivory Tower. Everything was going well in the first gate, until the bard died, and the striker was left alone to his own devices. Now, the striker was confident going into this fight, but with his trusty friend, the bard, gone, he realized he was missing something very important. No, it was not the heals. No, it was not the attack buffs. But he was missing his Yearning set, his Yearning buff, his attack speed and movement speed. The striker, he struggled and tried so hard to hit the back, but he just couldn't chase the boss around. He was just too slow and sluggish. So, after many, many attempts, the striker also perished and died and wiped the raid. And after that, they went in again, and the same thing happened. The bard sadly just died, and the striker was again left to his own devices, trying to chase the boss around. And he was just sick and tired of it. He proclaimed, "I can't have this anymore. I won't have this anymore. I'm going to write a letter, an angry letter, to Smilegate, asking them to get rid of Entropy set, asking them to get rid of Yearning set, and hopefully we'll be living happily ever after that." And that was the last that we heard of the striker and bard. The end. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed that story and found that to be a little bit entertaining. But all of this is to say that we currently have some interesting changes coming to Lost Ark. Some of those a little bit more concrete, some of those a little bit less. And that has to do with the Entropy set and the Yearning set. Now, Law on Winter just happened, and during that conversation, lots of things got announced, right? Different systems, a new class, talking a little about the upcoming content, but a couple things also came up about the Entropy set and the Yearning set. Now, for the Entropy set, they addressed that directly and said, look, we are going to be getting rid of Entropy in this game, at least the set, right? And for Yearning, they acknowledged the issue. They acknowledged people's frustrations with the set about how powerful it is and how necessary it felt like it was to play, but they didn't really come up with any solutions. So I want to talk today about what I think they're going to do with both the Entropy set and the Yearning set in the upcoming future of Lost Ark. So to start off, let's talk a little bit about the Entropy set. The Entropy set, I think, of course, they said they're going to get rid of it, right? They're going to remove the Entropy set. It's going to be gone from the game. And I think there's a couple ways to interpret this. So the first way that a lot of people are interpreting this, and maybe not a lot, there's a good number of people though, they're interpreting as we're just getting rid of Entropy. Front attack, back attack, gone from the game. Now, for me, I personally don't think that that is the best choice, and I also don't think that's the choice that they're going to go with, because the whole game itself, up until this point, has been designed around Entropy, right? The concept of attacking the front, the attacking the back, and having positionals in the game. And they continue to make classes that follow these rules, like the newest class Breaker is a front attack, right? While they say that they're going to get rid of the Entropy set, I don't think that they're getting rid of front attack and back attack completely. I just don't think that makes sense. I think that it's an interesting part of the game and an interactive part of combat, right? Personally, I think that for the most part, Entropy classes are the more interesting classes to play because it requires yourself to position very well in your fights. It requires you to have that extra level of difficulty that, you know, when executed well, just feels like you're playing extremely well. Just like when you're hitting all those back attacks in a fight, you have like a 90% to 100% back attack on a fight. That just feels really good, right? And because of that, I don't think that they're getting rid of Entropy, but rather, I think they're going to be doing something else, which is option 2 for me, what I think the scenario 2 is. And that has to do with just, of course, getting rid of the set, right? But making it so that it's not as punishing when you miss the front or back with your class, whether, depending which type of attack you're doing. Now, you can go upon this in 2 ways, right? You can just make it so that the set doesn't exist anymore, and now you're running a set like Hallucination or something like that, or they, of course, not just Hallucination. It's going to be a set similar to that, but maybe they're going to increase your damage overall, right? But then you're still running Ambush Master or Master Brawler for your classes, so you do get a bonus from hitting those front and back attacks, but it's not so punishing to where you're losing both your set and that engraving when you're doing your damage. It's going to be a situation where it's more a nice to have to hit those front and back attacks, where for the most part you're going to want to try to hit that, right? But even if you miss it, it's not going to be super punishing. I think a good way to think about this is thinking about Pistolier Deadeye. Pistolier Deadeye has attacks that are back attacks, and as if you've watched my video about Pistolier Deadeye, you know that crit is extremely important for that class. So when I'm playing Deadeye, I actually try to hit the back as much as I can. But there are situations where it's not possible. But I'm not going to go and just go for the back and sniff ass and give up at the same time my DPS uptime. I'm going to keep DPSing the boss, but try to get to the back. And if I'm not hitting the back, it's not the biggest deal, right? I'll hit the front sometimes, I'll hit the side sometimes, but when I have the opportunity to hit the back, I'll go for that because it benefits my class. So I think it's going to be something along those lines. Of course, it's not going to be as lenient as Deadeye, of course, because Deadeye doesn't even run an Ambush Master. It's going to be a situation where you're still going to be running Ambush Master, you're still going to be running Master Brawler. Maybe the set itself even gives you damage for landing front or back attacks, but maybe it's just a smaller percentage, right? Maybe it's a situation like this set is going to be increasing your damage overall, but when you hit that front attack, when you hit that back attack, it adds to it. It makes your damage even stronger. So I don't have the numbers on top of my head, unfortunately, about what Entropy gives you in terms of damage. But let's say Entropy gives you, at the moment, 30% bonus damage when you hit the front or back, right? Maybe they're going to make it like the set itself gives you 15% damage no matter where you hit. But if you hit the front or back, it gives you an extra 30 or the extra 15%. So it's still going to be the same, where Entropy gives you 30% if you hit the front or back, but if you miss it, it's not like that entire 30% is going to disappear. You're going to have 15% damage and you're just missing that other 15% because you missed it. I think that's a more fair way to do it, just because, one, it still encourages that Entropy playstyle, because I personally think it's very fun, but two, in those fights where it's extremely hard to hit the front and back, or you just miss it, it's not as punishing for you, and you'll still be able to do decent damage. So that's where I think the Entropy set is going to go, and I think there are quite a few people who agree with me and think that that is the direction they're going to go with as well, or something similar. If you don't think that's the case, or even if you think that's the case, right? Let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Now, the second thing that I wanted to talk about tonight is the Yearning set. Now, this one is definitely a little bit less cut and dry. I think Entropy kind of has like a very good answer for how to fix it, but I think the Yearning set is a little bit less so than that. I don't know if there's an exact perfect way to fix the problem, because it's so core to the way that we play the game, right? It's something that every class interacts with, whether you're the support that's holding the Yearning set, or you're the DPS that's, benefiting from the bonus effects of that set, right? And the important part is, it's fun to have Yearning set. It feels good to have Yearning set, and it makes a lot of classes viable. I think that if we didn't have Yearning set in the game, a lot of the full spec classes in the game just wouldn't exist. Those builds would not be viable. You'd have to take away spec, put some into swiftness, so you just feel a little bit better about your movement, or maybe it's like running spirit absorption, something like that, just to make the class feel a little bit better to play. Because full spec without Yearning set is absolute garbage to play. It feels so bad. So I think that just removing Yearning set isn't going to work because, like, well, now every class feels like shit to play, and people wouldn't want that, right? I have a good bit of experience in this as well with MapleStory, because MapleStory has this effect, this skill for a class called Kishin Shokan. And that was a Kana class-specific skill. But what everybody would do is they would make an alt Kana and run it on a second computer, because what Kishin did was it increased the spawn rate of the monsters in the map. And it was just a lot more fun to kill more monsters and have them respawn quickly, right? So it made more monsters spawn on the map and made them respawn faster. It was just so much fun to have, but it was a problem. It became a problem because, one, I think it shit on the servers, so the MapleStory servers were dying because everybody's using Kishin. But two, it put us in a situation where we felt like we needed to have Kishin to train. We needed to have Kishin to play the game, or else it just felt very bad, which is kind of the same with Yearning, right? We feel like we need to have a support with a Yearning set to play the game, or it just feels really bad. So what did Nexon do in MapleStory? Well, they just nuked it. They just got rid of it. They're like, nope, you guys don't get any of the spawn rate anymore. We're removing every spawn rate increasing item in the game, at least for a reboot, right? And the class no longer will have that skill perform the same task. It will no longer increase the spawn rate of the mobs in the map. And that was what ultimately made a lot of people quit. But at the same time, it kind of gave us like a freeing sensation to where, like, I guess since we don't have Kishin anymore, we can just kind of train whenever we want. We don't have to have a second computer anymore. We don't have to, have a spawn buffing effect anymore. So that's what happened to MapleStory, and I don't think that that's what we want in Lost Ark either, because just getting rid of Yearning set will feel extremely bad. We're not going to want to play our classes. We're not going to want to play a lot of these spec classes, and we'll probably only play like Swift classes, Swift crit classes, and that's not the best balance. So what can we do about this, right? Some people have talked about, let's just put a buff on every class and increase their base movement speed and attack speed to account for the missing Yearning. I mean, that is an option, but also feels like kind of like just like a cop-out in many ways. Like, I don't really think like that's the best game design. Just, all right, well, we'll just put it built in every class. It'll be fine after that. I think that's kind of lame, because in many ways that just is kind of like them admitting defeat. So while I don't think that there's any like surefire silver bullet that we can really put into the game that'll make everybody happy, I think there are some interesting ideas and ways that we could potentially tackle this issue. And one of those ideas, I was thinking about this pretty hard, was thinking about the design of the Chaos Dungeon. So when we're in the Chaos Dungeon by ourselves, right, it doesn't feel bad to fight in the Chaos Dungeon. Why is that? Well, it's because we have those little wind orbs that spawn around the map, where if we walk over them, we get a movement speed buff, right? Maybe it's something like that. You can put little wind orbs around the arena to where if we walk over them, we get the Yearning buff. It's just like a little temporary boost, a little temporary buff that we get. Every now and then we'll have to walk back, walk over it, and get the buff again. I think that could be interesting and an interactive way to play the game. The other thing is, maybe it's, rather than little wind orbs, it's more like ethers that spawn around the map, right? Similar idea, but it's not like a permanent fixture in the map. So like, you start off the map, you have to pick up these ethers, and then as you go through the fight, these ethers spawn throughout the map. And whenever you're getting close to running out of your Yearning buff, then you go pick up another ether. Something like that. Similar idea where you're interacting with the map itself, going around, traversing around, and doing these things that normally you wouldn't be doing, but it just benefits your character a lot, so it becomes a bit interactive, right? It's things like that that I think could be an interesting way to solve this problem, not just like putting it directly into your character or just getting rid of it completely, right? But finding other ways to implement this piece of, I guess, content or buff, right, that your characters get in a different, more interactive manner. Maybe it's picking up, I don't know, maybe it's about picking up, like I said, the ethers, but you can also, maybe it's like oh, maybe I'll go into this thing and do a typing test real quick, and then after that I get a buff. Things like that, where it adds gameplay elements into the game to reward you for, doing those things. I think that could be an interesting way to solve the problem. That way, even when the support dies, yes, we don't get the healing anymore, we don't get the attack buff anymore, but it doesn't feel like absolute trash to play the game. We still have ways to get our Yearning buff, and it won't feel extremely bad. I don't know. And, the support could just keep the Yearning buff, right? And we still have these, like, ethers around the map. It's just that when we have the Yearning buff, it doesn't stack. So when the support dies, then we need to be a little bit more interactive. Different things like that to just make the game more interactive and not make it feel bad to lose your support, or as bad. But yeah, I don't know if you guys agree with me. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. This is a discussion. So let me know in the comment section down below. Have you ever thought about this problem and what you would do to implement a fix? But yeah, hopefully y'all enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was a little bit of food for thought. And if you did, remember, please hit that like button, hit the sub button, ring the bell for notifications. And as always, I stream on Twitch every night and multi-stream on YouTube starting at 10 p.m. PST at twitch.tv/misosoup. I'm going to be gone this weekend, though. It's currently the 21st of December in 2023. So if you're watching this week, I'm going to be gone on the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, but I'll be back the 25th. So yeah, hopefully I'll see y'all on the stream. But if not, hopefully I'll see y'all on the next video. Peace out.